honestly, I feel like feminism is a really big part of this show because there's so many like portions about it that seem to correspond. Like I really vividly remember one of the workers like asking her or like hitting on her while she was like walking by him and sort of like catcalling her, and he ends up changing his mind because she's just so like upbeat about everything, and like he's like, you're right, like I should think about women like I think about my mother, like my daughter, and it's like funny, but I mean it brings up like a actually serious kind of point.
Well, I think the like predominant one is kind of the idea of feminism. Again, with the intro, like the theme song, and just the like resilience that I keep wanting to call her Erin because of The Office. I don't remember what her name is, but how Kimmy is so kind of like happy about everything, and like she strives to, like she goes to school, she wants to get an education because she after being locked underground for 15 years. And I think that it's like the whole thing is kind of shown through this like very, like even the color scheme is so bright in this series. I think that like adds to kind of happy tone of it. Because like nothing is ever explicitly mentioned about like, because obviously like we've heard in the news awful stories about like girls who've been kidnapped and like kept in basements in Chicago and stuff. But like the only kind of hints we get at it in this series are like she wakes up and finds herself like strangling Titus in his bed, and obviously there was some sort of like PTSD trauma she had undergone to do that. But I think the whole attitude of the show kind of glosses over that, but not in like a negative. It doesn't, glossing over is maybe a bad term, but it kind of, it gives it a nice like happy blanket under which there may be some awful things.
I think the social themes that are most prevalent throughout the show are social class and the way the show deals with social status, and feminism and what it means to be a woman and what it means to like be surviving in the city as a woman, and the way that like Kimmy embraces that, as well as the other female characters on the show, is really interesting. And I think that the different perspectives that the show is able to depict kind of gives it a little more variety.
I mean, the whole purpose of like her character is to be that kind of opposing like foil that for Kimmy, like the complete opposite, as you said. And I think it's just another way to show kind of a different form of like self-expression. That sounds really weirdly deep, but like Kimmy is always trying to like express this positive outward attitude, whereas Mrs. Voorhees is like, I think her backstory, she like came from like a Native American family, but she's like, no, I want to be like an all-American white woman in the city and marry like a billionaire. So I think that's just another kind of way to show that, and their interactions show like the different sides of that relationship.
That's where I feel like the show like falters the most. Like while Kimmy's character is very strong in her beliefs and in her sense of self, Jay's character is not at all, and like that's played for comic effect so often, but also like it kind of reinforces these themes that women need men to like, you know, survive or have power in society, when that's not true. Yes. I mean, I don't think the show's obviously like trying to be racist, but the way that they set up and carry out jokes and gags that deal with race on any level, whether it's Jay Krakowski's like Native American heritage within the character, or other aspects of the way that they portrayed that storyline in the first season is very problematic to me, because like I'm like 1/64th, like one of my great-great-grandparents was Native American, but I don't believe that like that heritage is something that should be taken advantage of at any point, and like she, like the whole narrative backstory that they gave her with the flashbacks within that season was so problematic because she just clearly is not Native American, like the actress is not at all. So had they cast someone who had Native American heritage and like a significant amount of it, and then they had gone through that with that storyline, that would have been awesome. That would have been representational. But because they didn't, it was very much the whitewashing.
I don't find the show particularly like offensive, and I think that's kind of the issue with it though. I think it's kind of like stupid humor though. Like it's really slapstick, and like I think like sometimes the part that is offensive is just when it tries to handle some sort of topic, it tries to do it in a funny way, but in a way that's not like interesting, you know what I mean? Like it's a very generic almost take on humor, and I think it kind of like borders on like dumb humor that like a lot of shows like kind of resort to. I mean, you could make like more. I mean, you could just make better jokes, to be honest. And yeah, that's probably about it.
Do you think these better jokes would potentially be or considered more offensive? Is that what you would qualify as a better quote unquote?
Well, I like think that it's okay to really push the limits of like what is allowed, and like I mean many comedians have done it before to really, really hilarious results, and honestly like very illuminating results. But I think that the show is like almost too safe because it presents these topics but in a really like isolated kind of way, and sometimes it gets a point across, which I think it sometimes like it definitely does, but like it's just like not, it's too like joyful and like playful and cheerful all the time that there's really no shift in tone throughout the show. And like I can't watch this show. Like I got through a couple episodes and like I thought it was okay because like it's still kind of funny, it's like mildly entertaining, but like there are just so many better shows to watch Mad Men. That's all I have left to say. Donald Draper voice.
When watching the show, I never took it to be, you know, personally victimizing or like offensive in any way. I mean, sure, there are kind of digs at, you know, Titus Burgess, who's like a flamboyantly gay guy, and Dom, who's like the kind of typical Asian immigrant, stuff like that. But I think there are so many kind of truisms in the series that kind of like outweigh that. Like it's almost like the simplicity with which she says all these just kind of things that like kind of morals. It's kind of like Aesop's fables. Like she'll just say you should, like she'll say to James Rakowski stuff like, it's like not your outward appearance that matters. It's you have to change what's inside in order to change what's outside.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which are like, I think just the way that it's presented, like the morals and like the back, like the intent is like it outweighs the kind of negatives.
I mean, I think it's absolutely fine. Like I'm the kind of person that I don't believe that like humor should be limited by like things that people find like offensive, because I think that different people find different things offensive, and some people just find too many things offensive in my eyes. But I think that also just the whole point of humor is to be kind of more toward like leaning more towards like progress and pointing out issues that other people might not want to like poke like fun at, and you know a lot of times it ends up actually having like serious impact. Like, and, you know, a lot of people thought Eddie Murphy was like really offensive when he used to do his or not Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock was really offensive when he used to be a comedian, but and he still is, but like he ended up making, I guess, some impact.
I mean, it's difficult because it isn't. It is a very like woman positive show, but it is also problematic as well, just by virtue of being a comedy and making jokes that are often at other people's expense. There are jokes that, like, you know, are difficult for, I lost my train of thought, that there are jokes that are not really, like, as woman friendly, and, like, there are jokes with Jane Krakowski's character that, like, portray her as a very, like, specific type of woman, and that, like, she is only, like, this kind of stereotype of what an, like, upper class, powerful woman is, and isn't necessarily, like, a full portrait of.
Well, honestly, I'd say that they put in a lot of like things into the show, like subtle, not even subtle, like okay, so the light choice, it's always day, it's always very bright on Kimmy. Kimmy Schmidt always wears colorful clothing. She has red hair, like she has very red hair, which again is very vibrant. And like I think all that kind of plays into the whole like idea that this show is super joyful. We're always enthusiastic about everything, and everything is colorful and happy. And like I can see the direction they're going with, because I think that the point is that at least the director is trying to make is probably that you can be enthusiastic about life. Like it's not necessary for everything to be dark and gloomy. Like it doesn't need to be like Driver or something where literally Thief, where everything is only set at night. And I think that it gets across that message pretty well. And yeah, I can have some, like, the show can have some faults, but I think that's one of its strengths, actually, that it really tries to get people enthusiastic about things.
Well, I mean, I think Tina Fey is kind of, you know, a genius doing this. It's like the topic itself is so bleak and dismal that you would never think she'd be able to make a comedy out of it. But somehow it's just so like light and funny. And I think even, you know, the opening song says females are strong as hell.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that whole kind of message is apparent in it, because like Kimmy Schmidt is so kind of bright and cheerful in the face of all the like horrors that she's probably, like, it's hinted at all the things that she's experienced, even though it's not explicitly shown. And the fact that it's not explicitly shown probably like adds to the kind of the success of it, because that's what makes it a comedy. It's not, you know, a dark comedy. It's not something like Orange is the New Black, another Netflix original series. It's not as, you know, dramatic but also comedic as that. It's solely like for the purpose of entertainment.
Well, I think that, well, firstly, like, most of the characters, like, the point at which we find their stories to be problematic isn't, like in episode 1, it was not problematic at all. It was very funny, and, like, you know, you were learning about Kimmy's backstory, and it was, like, not a problem. But then when you go further on in the season and you find out about Jane Krakowski's characters, like, heritage and those flashbacks, and also Titus Burgess's characters, like Titus's kind of personality we see develop as very like extreme and loud and funny, but still like not necessarily a clear portrait, but more like a caricature of that kind of him. He like is not really a clear person, so I think that like I'm sure the actors probably would want to take the role for, like, they wouldn't want to take the role if, I lost where I was going with this. I would think that the actors would want to take the role so that they can kind of fully illustrate what these characters are, but it's the writing more so that is problematic than the acting and portrayal of the characters. So, like, Tina Fey needs to maybe change some of those jokes and storylines about